So it becomes even more complicated here. So basically, if our default state group does not equal null pointer, and this group class equals the default state group class, then we want to just like add this to us here and found default group equals true, and we'll continue. So we want to more do it like that. So we've already cloned it, so we don't have to do anything. And then we need to do the same sort of thing inside of the state group. Doing? Like we're setting the default state here, not the default state group, so we're actually okay here. And we do actually still need to do the clone, so that's true. Do we need the get class in here? The override logic state should be a static class. So the state groups actually, we don't need to change here. So if the state equals the default object, yeah, so we don't actually have to do this sort of thing. Alright, just ridiculous pointer shenaniganry. Object instantiation always gets super screwy. Basically what was happening was we weren't actually setting our states because we were recloning our states and not comparing the correct thing. So it was like, oh, is this thing this other thing? And be like, no, you cloned it already, so it's something else. And it's like, oh, okay, well I don't need it then. So we're going inside of the logic controller, initialization. So we should say the default state group. Why is the default state group null? That's not correct at all. So the logic object has a default state group of null, but an M default state group of something, which is good. So is it that our entity logic object do we not set it? Entity M logic controller. Has default state group set that, and this one is not. Okay. Alright, so this base logic is null. So we are actually cloning this logic class. So when we clone it, the default state group is set to null, even though base logic default state group has a default state group on it already. And we cloned this thing? God, get out of my view. Like, we already cloned this logic controller. So we need to have like something else inside of this object. So it's like if base logic does not equal null pointer, and then we basically need to say like if base logic is cloned is false, then we would need to set this. Otherwise, logic equals base logic. So public, we need like bool is cloned, and we need like a void set cloned. Need a private boolean here. And we need to, in the entity utils, say entity, yeah. So we need to set clone to true after that, and when we go in, we're not actually going to clone our object. It's already cloned, it's already set, so we don't have to worry about it. Now I can tell you're online with that. Yeah, that's why I threw it in there, Twitch Warpy. I just quickly was like, well, what's the easiest way I can fix this problem? Oh, I can just, add some stupid color overlay to my profile picture. I was like, well, what color should I use? And I was like, well, red is usually live, so I guess I'll just make it red. And then it's like, he's live because it's red. I don't know. Logic? Maybe. Some sort of logic. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. So our fat sack should now be starting off in the Wander state. It's definitely eye catcher. Alright. Yeah, so people in California are now yelling at me for not going to a barbecue, even though they're 1,000 miles away from me. And the barbecue is on Monday or something. I'm actually tempted to drive down to California just to go to a fucking barbecue. Alright, so we have the logic. The default state group is that one. The current state is fatsack idle. Yeah, the default state is wrong. Why are you wrong, fatsack? You're wrong. Alright, so we have the logic object. It should be the entity. Logic. This thing is all sorts of screwed up. So we go through, okay, if it is cloned, false. But we set you to clone to true. Okay, this right here is what's going wrong. Is the override AI is null pointer. So what we need to do is we need to clone this thing if it's there. So this check needs to go kind of like this, I think, if grams. Needs to look like that. Okay, cool. Starting to make more sense. So it's like, okay, if we're going to override it, then override it, but we have to clone it if we do. Okay. It's just a lot of switches for instantiating crap. Yeah. It's what, only a 14-hour drive? Are we really not that important enough for you to drive down and hang out for one evening? Like, it's not 14 hours, John. It's 14 hours there and back again. It's a 28-hour drive for a 4-hour fucking barbecue. That better be some tasty barbecue. Which there's actually a precedent for that. I did go down to California just for like one evening there. What is this pissed off about? It's pissed off that we set this thing to null pointer after using it. So we need to make sure that, yeah, so if the logic controller is null, so it's like if logic controller does not equal null pointer, then we need to clone it like this. Otherwise, the logic controller should be the just a new logic controller like such. Yeah, well, if I was going to go down there, it would, I don't know. Yeah. 28-hour drive is a lot, especially when it's through like the middle of frickin' Oregon, which smells like wood chips and fart steam, and is not a fun place to drive through. And you could always like try to go fly down there, but I don't really want to spend money. It was a different thing when I had a job, that paid money. They'd be like, all right, I can spend a couple $100 or whatever, fly down for a frickin' barbecue. It's not really a big deal. What is this getting angry about? Man, just all this setup stuff. I mean, we're making it easier later to actually override stuff though, so it's not really awful. It's just kind of awful. Alright, so we're calling this get default object is not null, so we're cloning it. Why are you now all pissed off at me? What was this before? It was just this. So what are you getting pissed off? New object called with invalid class must be child of. So blueprint generated class must be Dashkin logic object. I mean, it's basically that we need to, when we're cloning this thing, how are we cloning it over here with our what is this error? Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, it's a blueprint class, yes, but oh, is it literally this? That this is all screwed up because of get default object? Definitely could be the case. Because it's getting the class of the T subclass of, as opposed to getting the class of the pointer to the object. So let's finish this. And with every one of these small changes, more and more of this Unreal object instantiation and how everything works gets drilled into my brain one error at a time. Yeah, and it was that. Alright, so we got this sort of stuff going on. The default state has been set to the override state. We set our position. We're going to walk into our post setup. Our post setup should walk into our logic controller, and it is cloned, so we just set it. We call initialize. Our default state group is fatsack standard. So what we're going to say is, well, we found it, add our group there, and continue, and our state group is good to go. Yeah, so he started in his wander state. Alright, well that took entirely way too much time, but we did get it. Excellent, so we now have much easier to customize instantiation of objects inside of blueprints. So I was able to successfully add a tag and like override his fatsack wander state as his starting state in his AI and do all that sort of stuff. So that's actually really powerful. Like, this doesn't look like a whole hell of a lot has gotten done there, but basically I could create any type of object in the game and I can tell it what it's going to do without making a whole bunch of extra crap. Like, if I have an object, you know, a fat sack that normally does something, I can have him start off in his fleeing state or start off in whatever state. I don't have to like make his AI more complicated in order to do that. And I don't have to create a new fatsack which has like fatsack start in wander state, or fatsack start in flee state, or fatsack start in, whatever state we want. We could just, do that in blueprints real nicely, and we have that overridden for everything. So let's make sure that we have a few other methods. So we've got create entity by name with params. We've got create entity actor from entity. I think we also want like a create entity by name and by T subclass of. So we should probably have a T subclass of not a T subclass of, but we have it by entity proxy, which is fine, and creation param. So okay, we have that, but what we want really is also a something where we don't have to override the creation params, but like a simpler version of it. So we want like a const f vector address, like position. And we also probably want like a position and maybe a height. And that's probably all we need. So it's like, okay, make a dude over here, make one that's make it by entity proxy and position. And probably the same thing with these, so it's kind of looks like this. So I can create entity by name, create entity, and then create entity by name with height, and just create entity with height. And we need to implement these 4 methods. Call to create an entity by name in a position. Call to create an entity in a position. Call to create an entity by name in a position with a height. Call to create an entity with a height. Three. Alright, Karakan, you have a good one. I'm pretty much going to be done here in another 20 minutes anyway. I'm almost finished, so. And then what, you're going to be getting up to catch Adam's stream, I'm guessing? Which, we did get his build issues. He was having some issues with some of that stuff because of the new release. We did get it sorted out. So he shouldn't be like spending 2 million years compiling crap if he wants to work on the game. Hopefully. Fingers crossed there. As always, we will see. Yes, we will see indeed. Let me see, what is the auto scale stuff? I think it's inside of Entity Actor. Alright, so auto scale to height. We want auto scale to height also to have an overloaded function. Just pass in height. Oops, there we go. And now we need to call get data manager and get by name. So we're going to want entity proxy to equal this like data manager It's get entity by name. Warn log unable to create entity by name %s star name. Return null pointer. And then we'll just return create entity. We'll just pass in the proxy and then the position. And the height. Very good. Let's see, where is our entity actor? Scale to height is not found? I guess this doesn't exist. Alright, well, let's just make sure. So create enemy by name. Yeah, we don't need that. So we almost got everything rolling. Auto scale to height, blah blah, auto scale to height again. And I don't know if we want to allow blueprinting specific actors themselves. I don't think so, so I'm gonna kind of leave that out of the support there. Gonna have to think about that if I want any actors that they themselves are blueprint classes, because we have plenty of places to hook in for an entity actor. Like, you can hook in the movement, you can hook in pretty much everything. I mean, theoretically, it would be nice to be able to blueprint a specific actor and set stuff up, but I don't think we want to. It's a little bit too much flexibility at that point. Because I want to kind of control a lot of that. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll just leave it. Leave it as it is now. So in order to enforce that, I believe I just want to make the we're actually going to remove the Dashkin entity actors from spawnable things with entity classes and regenerate that code. So that'll prevent us from even like considering throwing in the wrong crap there. We'll just have any proxies be the only thing that you can actually spawn these things from. Fine with me. And I probably would have set that up differently if 2 months ago or whatever the hell it was, I knew more about setting up blueprints and the rest. Probably could have made a much easier system faster inside of that, but I'm not too worried about it. So inside of our logic, in order to create an object, we can now call create entity by name. We can also call create entity by name with height, and it takes a position and a height and all that sort of stuff. That's cool. Okay, so that's all there. Well, I think I'm pretty much done then for today. We've definitely simplified being able to create stuff. Now you can create an object not just by name like we had with like create effect by name and create object by name and like pass in positions and stuff like that, but for our characters, which are not like effects or objects, our characters are much more complex because a character has like an AI set to it and a bunch of animations and collision that can change all the time. We need to be able to override everything, so it's like you can call create simple params and then like add custom tags, override the AI of the default object, because when we create a character, we actually have like the character with all the animations rigged up, and we also have like their brains and which movement data they have, and we can override all this in data by making new real types. But you can also now just like in blueprints very easily modify that. So if you have just a very small change, you can just use that without doing anything nuts. And if it's like a big thing that you need to set up and make sure it works all the time and that you'll be spawning in all these different levels or whatever, then just make it a data type and you're fine. So all that's supported, and that'll make our lives a hell of a lot easier to deal with. So I think I am just gonna check in my files and we'll be good to go here. So much easier entity creation. So thanks for joining me, and have a good one. I'm gonna get out of here. So goodbye.